今回のプレゼンテーションはジェイミー・チェンバースさんによるスコットランドにおける映画教育についてのご報告になります。それではジェイミーさんよろしくお願いいたします。
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm delighted to be here with you all today. I'm very grateful to TIFF and Children Meet Cinema and Ms. Etsuko for having me here today. It's my first time in Japan and I'm thrilled to be here with you all.
皆さん、この度はですね、このような機会を頂戴したこと大変光栄に思っています。まず東京国際映画祭にお礼を申し上げたいということと、子ども映画教室、そうですね、土井悦子さんをはじめ、関わってくださった皆様、今回私、日本が初めてですので、ワクワクしています。
I should add that I had 2 hours sleep last night. I think I'm still on Scottish time, so my apologies if I'm a bit incoherent in places.
実はですね、昨夜睡眠時間2時間でした。ちょっと時差ボケでいまだに、スコットランドの、時空間にねおりますので、ちょっとなんかぼーっとしていたらごめんなさい。
Today I'm going to be telling you a little bit about our efforts in Scotland to build a new approach to film education. And I'm going to speak a little bit about my experience as a filmmaker myself and some of the research that has come out of that work with young people in classrooms. Most of what I'm talking about today is present in these 3 articles. If anyone would like to follow up on anything that I've said, you'll find a lot of what I'm going to present in this presentation in these 3 articles, and these 2 at the bottom here in particular are available for free online in the Film Education Journal.
はい、そしてですね、今日お話しすることは、今までですね、どのように映画教育に関わってきたかということなんですが、私自身が、映画作家として、その経験に基づいて、で、さまざまなですね、研究を、こちらは学術系な研究なども経て、そして、今、学校で、そうですね、若い子どもたちと接する中でのいろいろな気づき、そういったものをですね、そういった側面から本日お話をしたいんですが、また、この後も皆さん、さらに、振り返って、または情報が欲しいなということがございましたら、こちらに、3つ、記事がですね、読んでいただくことができます。特に下の2つですね、こちらはですね、ウェブで無料で読むことができますので、後ほどよろしかったら、ご一読くださいませ。
I wanted to start just by giving you a sense of my perspective upon film education. I trained myself at the London Film School in England, and I subsequently went on to make a series of films, both drama and documentary. And whilst I was working as a filmmaker, I had the good fortune to begin working with CCAJ, which Natalie was just telling us about. And I worked for CCAJ for 6 or 7 years, and I had a very rich experience of film education during that time. It really inaugurated me into some of the important questions of film education. And that led me, at around about the same time, I started working in universities as well. I started studying film, and that subsequently led me to set up the Film Education Journal, which I'll tell you a little bit more about in a second.
はい、まず私自身の経験に関してなんですが、ロンドン、映画学校、ロンドン映画テレビ学校ですかね、日本語で言うと、こちらの方でですね学びまして、そうして、そこから映画作家として、ドラマ、ドキュメンタリー、といったものを手掛けてきたわけですが、ご縁があってですね、今ナタリーさんが、お話しくださった CCAJ、 こちらに関わる、こととなりまして、6、7年間ですかね、こちらのプロジェクトに関わって本当にですね豊かな経験、その機会を得ました。そして、やはりこういった映画教育というものを通して、私自身大事な映画作家としてやっていく上でのいい問いかけを、その時いっぱいしたと感じます。それを経てですね、私は大学でより学術的に映画を学ぶということを経て、その以降ですね、自身でFEJ ですね、フィルムエデュケーションジャーナルというものの発刊、こちらに関わることに至りました。
So we founded the Film Education Journal in 2015 with the British Film Institute. We wanted people to take it seriously. We take film education very seriously ourselves, and so we wanted a publication that honored that sense of seriousness. The journal is published by one of the UK's leading academic publishers, by UCL Press. It's free to read online, which is very important to us. We believe very strongly in the importance of sharing knowledge about film education. And since we started, we have published 81 articles from all over the world, from Austria to Japan to Mexico to the United States.
そして、私はですね、この、フィルムエデュケーション、ジャーナルということですね、映画教育、ジャーナルというもの、これをですね、刊行するに至ったというのが発足して行うこと、それはやはり映画教育というものにより、真剣に取り組んでいきたいと考えた上で、それではこういった刊行物も必要であろうと考えたわけですね。そして、私たち、出版社がですね、UCL プレスという、これは学術系の、出版会社なんですね。で、こだわったのは無料でアクセスできる、読めるということですね。やはり、知識というものは共有することが必要であり、と考えました。現在のところ、81の記事、エッセイといったものがあって、世界中、オーストリア、メキシコ、日本、アメリカといったですね、各国からの、執筆者による記事を読むことができます。
Just very briefly, we just to single out a few pieces which are all free to read online. One of the things that we believe very passionately about is finding valuable pre-existing writing and research and thinking on film education and making that more broadly available. So we published two pieces. We published a piece by Alicia Vega, very important film educator from Chile, who developed a very innovative approach. So we published a piece by her talking about how she works with young people in disadvantaged communities in Chile. And we also published a piece by Mirjana Boric from Slovenia, again, a very important figure in European film education, who has thought very deeply about how we talk about films with children, how we discuss, how we start conversations and discussions with children. So these and various other pieces as well, Lania Kandi writing about film education in Nigeria, and we've also published various pieces we've supported Scottish teachers to write about their practice as well, and those are all available to read for free online.
そうですね。そうして、やはり私たちはですね、こういった記事において、記事で価値、そうですね、そういったものを共有する、そしてさまざまな、学術的な研究、それを共有することによって、考え方、映画教育の思想というものですね、それをより幅広い範囲で提供し、多くの人に届く、その無料で読めるということですね、そういったことに、大きくこだわりました。例えばですね、寄稿してくださった、書き手としてはですね、チリの、アリシア・ベガ、そうですね、非常に映画教育における、イノベーターといえる方ですよね。コミュニティの特にいろいろですね、問題を抱えたコミュニティ、若い人へのリーチするということに関わった方ですね。そして、ミリアナ、ボルシッチ、is that right? ボリッチさんですね、スロベニアの方です。ヨーロッパにおける映画教育において、とても大事な役割を果たしているとともにですね、やはり深く子どもにまずどうやって映画のことを話す、そのきっかけ、映画のことのそうですね、対話を始めるきっかけといったことに関しても、説いている方ですね。他にもですね、アカンデ、ラニさんであったり、といった方ですね。こういった方に寄稿いただいています。ナイジェリアの方ですね。他にもですね、スコットランドで映画教育に関わる先生といった方に寄稿をお願いしています。
Just to give you a sense, though, of why we feel film education is so important in Scotland. Scotland is a small country, and many of us who work as filmmakers in Scotland feel that Scottish film culture has never quite developed the sense of deep roots and strong infrastructure that we feel can really support a kind of film culture in Scotland. We've had many amazing filmmakers, and I've put pictures of some of my favourite Scottish filmmakers up here on the screen. Bill Douglas, Lynn Ramsey, Charlotte Wells. So we have a lot of talent, but we don't quite have the culture to support and celebrate that talent. And that's one of the reasons why I've become very involved in film education, as I see that as a way to enhance and develop film culture in Scotland.
そしてですね、本当にスコットランドというのは小さいコミュニティで、あるわけですが、これはある人の引用ですね。スコットランドは映画のなんて言うんでしょうか、大きな中心、世界の中で中心ではないし、これからも映画文化がそのように、なかなか発展することはないだろうということを言った人もいるんですが、要はですね、なかなかルーツとして文化としてない、サポートを得難いという部分があるんですね。だけれども、やはり素晴らしい人もいるわけですね。映画の中でですね、映画の中でさまざまな人が、出てきています。例えばここに、映っている方ですね、ビル・ダグラス、リン・ラムジー、シャーロット・ウェルズ、私もとてもね好きな映画作家たちですが、こういった才能のある人がいるけれども、なかなかその文化をですね、みんなでこう持ち上げて盛り上げてという部分がないので、それが私が映画教育にそもそもこうですね、自分が入っていって、より発展に寄与したいと思った、その理由でもあります。
So I guess that context in Scotland is one of the reasons why I got into film education. But I'd like to share with you a story about the moment when I really realized the full power of film education for young people in Scotland. And this was at a moment when I was fortunate enough to be working with CCHA, and I was working in a small primary school with a P5 class. So, sorry, this is a P7 class actually, 11 to 12-year-olds. In a town called Preston Pans, which is quite disadvantaged. There's quite a lot of deprivation and poverty and families that are struggling.
そしてぜひ若い人たちにですね、こういった映画のもたらす力、それを、体感してほしいと思う中で CCAJ との出会いがあって、そして、実際に学校とプログラム、プロジェクトを行うということになったわけですね。で、これから紹介するプログラムというのは、スコットランドの公立小学校、この子たちはですね、日本ですと6年生に相当する11、12歳ですね。で、プレストンパンズという、スコットランドの町で、ここはですね、ちょっと問題のある地域というか、貧困も、深刻な、地域であります。
So I worked with this class for a year as part of CCHA, and I met Luke, who you see here, at the start of the year, and he was very shy. His teacher told me that Luke liked films, but Luke was very shy. He didn't put his hand up. He didn't really participate very much. But as the year went on, he started to participate a little bit more and kind of dip his toe in the water, as it were. And I'm going to show you a little clip from a film that he made, which was the first moment when I really saw something spark within him.
そして、彼のですね、このルーク君のいる学校で、行ったプログラムは1年間経ったんですが、彼はですね、とてもシャイな子で、ただ、映画はとても好きだよっていうのは、彼の先生から聞いていたんですね。でも何か言っても自分から手を挙げることはしなかったんです。でもだんだん時が経つにつれ、だんだんちょっとこう、なんて言うんでしょうね、慣れてきて、少しずつこう参画するようになって、そして、彼がですね、映画をこう撮って、その映画を見た時ですね、もう最初の、冒頭からそれで思ったんです。なんかね、これは彼にとって新しい展開だな、ひらめきだなと感じた瞬間でした。
So I'm going to show you a short clip. It's just a minute. And where this came from is I asked the class in small groups of maybe 3 or 4 children to make a film which was one shot, had to be drama, so with actors, and it had to use the foreground, the middle ground, and the background, and it had to have a sense of emotion. And Luke's group went off and they shot a version of this film and they came back and they showed it to the class, and I was absolutely gobsmacked by it. What you're about to see, I should say, is a reshot version of it. Unfortunately, it's not the original thing that Luke shot. We used this exercise as the basis for a longer film, and as a result, we reshot it. But it's the same content that Luke initially shot. So it'll give you a sense of this first moment where he really started to use the tools of cinema as an expressive art.
これからご覧いただくのはですね、この作品の本当に最初の1分間だけなんですが、この彼のクラスで3、4人のグループに分かれて映画を撮ってもらったわけですね。で、決まりとしてはドラマであるということ、つまり役者、演じる人がいる、そして、遠近法というか手前、中、真ん中、背景という、ものを用いる、そして感情を表す、表現する作品であるという、課題があったわけですね。そしてルークのグループは撮ってきた作品、これをですね、戻ってきて教室で見たらもうみんなとても、盛り上がって反応が良かったわけです。で、実はご覧いただく作品はそのオリジナルではなくて再度撮り直したものなんですね。オリジナルを元にして、同じ内容でより長い作品で、撮ったので基本は変わらないんですが、まさにルークがですね、映画カメラというツールを得て、シネマを得て、感情表現をする、その本当にひらめきの瞬間をここで皆さんに、ご覧いただきたいと思います。
This clip doesn't have subtitles, so I should just tell you what is said in the clip. Luke he asks out the girl that he likes. He says, "Will you go out on a date with me?" And she says, "No. Have you looked at yourself in the mirror?" And she walks off. So that's the dialogue.
そして字幕がついていないので、セリフをここでちょっとね、事前にお伝えしておくと、ルーク演じる、子が、好きな子に告白をして付き合ってと頼むんですね。だけれども彼女は、いやよ、自分のことを鏡で見てみたらって言って去ってしまうというシーンです。
Dale, can you come here for a second? Can I speak to you? Alone? No, he's going to feel terrible if Jenna was such as well as Stan. But it's private. I don't care if it's private, just say Charlie. It's hard for me to say. Hurry up. I've got better things to do. Oh, I got you. No, you'll take yourself. Bailey, wait! Bailey, wait! That's not very nice. Wait! Something like that.
Thank you. So I guess one of the things that I was really struck by, there were lots of things I was struck by about this clip. The way that Luke used the frame, the foreground, the middle ground, the background was amazing. But I was also really struck by the fact that he was willing to show to the class a kind of dramatization of a moment when he was humiliated. I thought it took real bravery. I think, to kind of share that sense of emotion with the class.
はい、この、作品を見てですね、本当に心打たれた、感銘を受けた点がいくつかあったんですが、その一つはこのフレームの使い方ですね。遠近法の前と、中ほどと背景と、そういった距離感を見せているということと、あと、このドラマは、言うなれば侮辱的な屈辱的な瞬間ですよね。それをあえて選んで撮ってみんなと共有したというその勇気ですね。
And that was only the start of Luke's transformation, really. Over the next whilst we turned that little shot into a full film. And whilst he was making this film, I saw this amazing transformation in him. He went from being a very shy boy at the back of the class to, at the end of the year, he was able to get up on a stage and kind of laugh and talk and share his film with people. He started to interact a lot more socially. All of this was corroborated by his teacher. But the most amazing thing was that his reading age, his literacy, went forward 3 years in 3 months. So obviously something really, really important happened within him as a result of working with film.
この彼のですね、変革というのがここから始まったわけですね。この作品を撮ってそれからの6ヶ月というのは非常に目覚ましいものでしたね。本当に、この最初の彼のグループが撮った作品をですね、この10分ぐらいの作品に作り変える中で、いつも後ろの方に座っていたシャイな男の子がもうその映画を撮り終わる頃にはもうステージの前に立って自分の作品を共有堂々として笑っているような子になったわけですね。で、彼はよりいろんなことをやり取りをできるようになったり、これ本当に学校の先生に追うところも多いんですが、あと読解力というものですね。彼の読む力、読んで理解する力が3年分ぐらいはパッと飛躍して非常に深いそういった洞察力を持つようになった。それはこの、映画教育の結果ですね。
And after that happened, I spent a lot of time trying to think what happened to Luke. Why did that amazing transformation take place? And reflecting on my other experiences working with children in Scotland. And I came to the conclusion that a lot of the young people that I work with in Scotland, their relationship with cinema was characterized by a sense of dispossession or alienation. They felt that cinema did not belong to them.
そしてですね、考えさせられたわけですよね。一体何がルークに起きたんだろうか。で、これは私がですね、子どもたちと、いろいろなこういったプロジェクトをやった経験を経て、考えついたのがですね、この、ディスポゼッションとアリエネーション、つまり映画を自分のものとしていない、つまり映画だけではなくて何て言うんでしょうか、生活の中でこれを本当に自分で、自分のものなんだと思う経験がなかなかない、そして映画はですね、どっか他で起きているものというふうに、感じている、そういう感覚ですね。
I don't have time, unfortunately, to show you a clip from this film by Bill Douglas, one of Scotland's greatest filmmakers, but I'll describe it to you. It starts with this young boy who also, like Luke, lives in a small Scottish deprived town. And he's in the cinema and he watches on the big screen Lassie Come Home, and the images are in beautiful Technicolor. There is big music, Lassie's at the top of a kind of valley looking out over this kind of vast vista. But he is in black and white, and the town where he lives is in black and white. And I came to the conclusion that this is the relationship that a lot of our young people in Scotland seem to have with cinema. They go to the cinema, and what they see on the screen is in bright color, but they look at their lives outside, and they see their lives in kind of black and white. Their lives are boring. They're humdrum.
このですね、スコットランドの偉大なる映画作家ビル・ダグラスのこの作品をちょっと紹介する時間はないんですが、どういった映画かというのをですねお話しすると、この若い少年ですね、このルークぐらいの年の子が、 見ています画面を。で画面はカラーなんですね。でこの見ている映画はラッシーです。ですからイノナ・ラッシーがテクニカラーで谷から、こう見下ろしていると。だけれども彼自身、それと彼の住んでいる町は白黒なんですね。でここでまさに、私が、導き出した結論というのが、こう若い子は映画の世界っていうのはこうカラーできらびやかに見えている。だけれども自分のいる世界は、白黒で、退屈なところというそういう意識です。
Frequently, I had the experience of we would start filming with children in a town like Preston Pans, and as soon as the camera went on, they would start using American accents. They would start speaking in American. And one of the young people I was working with, he set his film in America. And I said, why didn't you set your film in Fife, where you live? And he said, well, because nothing interesting happens in Fife.
でプレストンパンズという先ほどねルークも住んでいるその町で、撮影をして、興味深いことにですね、はい撮影をするよっていうふうに子どもたちと撮るといきなりセリフがアメリカンアクセントで話し出すんですね。で中にはやっぱりロケ地をですね設定をアメリカにしたっていう子がいました。なんで自分のこの町じゃないんだっていうと、いやここにはそんなね撮るに足る面白いものなんて何もないよっていうわけです。
And I guess when I reflected upon what had happened with Luke, Luke made a film where he used his own voice, he didn't put on an accent, he filmed in the place where he lived, his mum was cast in the film, he cast members of his family, so he filmed in the place where he lived, he used his own voice, he drew on aspects of his own experience. I think there was also a degree of making up as well, there was a lot of imagination in there as well, but he drew upon his own life. And then he saw that on the big screen, ultimately. And I think what happened to Luke, and this is just a hypothesis at this point, is that the color from cinema was redistributed into his own life to a point where he felt pretty good about himself. At the start of the year, he seemed to feel not so good about himself. But at the end of the year, when he'd made this film, he did feel good about himself.
ルークの、ね、作品はご覧になったように自分自身の声で、自分の持っているアクセントで、撮っていて、あと自分の家族も実は登場しているんですね。お母さんだったりとかで自分の住んでいる町で撮っているわけです。で、ちょっとこうね想像はもちろんあるけれども、結構自分のこう、なんだろうね、ちょっと恋心とかそういった部分が投影されています。だからある意味実生活にこう基づいたそういった作品を大きな画面で見る、機会があったわけですよね。だからこれは私のちょっと過程として考えている、ことなんですが、そうですね、導き出したことは映画の中でこう色とりどりでこう起きていることが彼の実生活にこうそういったね、鮮やかな色とりどりのものをもたらした。つまり自分に自信のなかった彼が、自分に満足のできる、やっぱり彼にこの経験は大いなる自信を与えたというふうに私は推測しています。
And that led us to formulate this idea of a vernacular cinema. And what we mean by that is a cinema which expresses a local experience, which expresses a local voice. So it's a cinema in which we encourage children to use their own voices and not put on American accents, to play themselves or to play people like them, to draw from their own experiences or write stories about that might happen to them or people like them. We encourage children not to write down dialogue. We encourage them to improvise, to put things into their own words. And we encourage them to film in the places that they live, to use the places and the people around them in order to make their films.
そして、これがまさにですね、これからまたお話しする、バーナキュラーフィルムという概念に通じるわけです。非常にこれは自分の地元に根ざした映画ということですね。自分の経験に基づき自分の声を使って、自分を演じる、自分や周りの人に起きたことを、映画にする。そしていろいろ書き込みすぎず、かなりこう即興性を持って、ロケも登場する人も自分の周りの人というのもとに映画を作ります。
And when we reflected upon world film history, world film culture, we found many other examples of this way of filming, of using non-actors, of location shooting, of almost using an interface with documentary and expressing place, local voice, local cultural identity. And we, of course, one of the most resonant examples being Italian neorealism, but also elsewhere in the world, the third cinema of post-colonial nations, films by filmmakers like Ousmane Sembène, the fourth cinema of the indigenous peoples movement, thinking of filmmakers like the Inuit filmmaker Zacharias Canuck, and also other moments in British film history like the British Film Workshop movement and the films of the Amber Collective.
映画史、映画文化ということの中でも、例はいくつかありますね。つまり、素人を起用して、そのロケ、そこの場所を使ってかなりドキュメンタリータッチで撮るということですよね。でそこには、そこに住む人の声、アイデンティティというものが反映されています。例を挙げるならば、まず、イタリアのネオリアリズム、の作品群であったり、あと、第三の映画と言われる、いわゆる、ポストコロニアリズム、つまり、植民地化以降の、作品というものを言うと、例えばここには映画監督でいうとウスマン・エン・センベーヌですね、セネガルの。あと、第4の映画といえるのは、先住民の、監督による作品、例えば、こちらですと、イヌイットのザカリアス・クヌクといった監督の作品、そしてイギリスにもですね、ブリティッシュ、フィルム、コレクティブ、で活動する作家たちといった、作品に顕著です。
So our rationale for a vernacular approach to film education is that we think it is personally empowering for young people. We think it's pragmatic because it means you can, frequently when I've been making films for young people, there is no budget. So this approach means you work with the places that are available to you, the people that are available to you. But we also think that there's an aesthetic argument as well, that this approach to filmmaking allows young people to relate to images as they are, rather than images which are referring to something else, as often happens when children are pretending to be detectives or zombies or similar.
そして、ここからですね、導き出した、理論として、映画教育にこういった、地元に根ざした要素はどのように、適用されるかというと、非常に個人的であるということ、そして2番目に、実用性があるということですね。つまり、まず個人的というのは、若い人をエンパワーメント、力を与えていろいろななんていうんでしょうか、自分の、中で、肯定感といったものを導き出すといったこと、あとその実用性というのは、往々にして予算がないわけですから、あるもの、ある人、何でも使えるものは、経験なり使うということ。そして3つはですね、これエステティック、これは美的というふうに使われがちですが、これはより、そのあるがまま自然を捉えるということですね。つまり自分ではないものに、あえて、装わない、つまり探偵だったりゾンビだったりになりすますのではなく、自分を見つめるということです。
And our hypothesis, which we're in the process of trying to explore through further research, is that we feel that this approach, our contention is that this approach helps children develop self-esteem, how they feel about themselves, how they feel about the places they live and the communities that they live in, but also that it helps children develop a sense of aesthetic attention. So the capacity to pay attention to color, to light, to texture in the places that they live. And it's our hypothesis that these two things are interrelated, that if you have greater self-esteem, then you are more likely to pay attention to yourself, to the places around you, but also the other way around. If you pay attention and are able to find the value in your own experiences and the places and the communities in which you live, then you're more likely to build that sense of self-esteem. And we're in the process of exploring these questions with some developmental psychologists. And this paper at the bottom, which we're publishing next month in the Film Education Journal, is our first piece of research where we're looking to try and explore those questions in dialogue with cognitive psychologists.
そしてこれはですね、リサーチ中のものなので、実証前のあくまで仮定とは言えますが、こういったですね、一連の行動、活動、教育がですね、自己肯定感を高めることに助けるのではないかということです。そして、自分の住む場所、コミュニティ、そして自分自身に関してより居心地がいいというか、そういう場所を見つけるということになりますね。そして、これもですね、美的感覚を助ける。この美的というのは、より自分の周りに気を配るということですね。で、そこに注意を払う。で、映画的な面で言うならば、使われている色、光、いわゆるテクスチャーですよね。手触り、そういったものですね。そういったものとこの2つが関わることによって、自己肯定感が高まる。それによっていろいろ自分の周りに気を配れるようになる。で、逆もしかりだと思うんですね。つまり自分の周りの環境に価値を見出し、経験が意味のあるものだということでコミュニティとつながることによって、個人の肯定感というのが高まる。で、これをですね、発達心理学の、権威によって、より、その探求して書かれたもの、それがですね、来月号の、この私たちの、ブリティッシュ、フィルムエデュケーションジャーナルに、掲載されます。で、ここはですね、より対話式の記事になっていて、そうですね、認知、心理学といったそういったより、認知能力といった部分の、問いかけもしています。
I'm about to run out of time, but I'd like just to kind of summarize all of this. I'd just like to show you another short film in its entirety this time, made by another young person, using this vernacular cinema method. And the thing I just want to tell you about this film before I play it is that Bridget, who made this film and stars in it and did all the camera work herself, was allowed to take her camera home. She was in a school from a more privileged part of Scotland where they trusted the children to be able to take the cameras home. And as a result, everything that was filmed without adult intervention at all, which I find very exciting. And I should just tell you, because again, the film doesn't have subtitles, it's a film where a lot of it is drawn from documentary footage that Bridget has shot from her own life. But latterly, I worked with her to write a very, very simple story, which we've pieced together in between the documentary bits. And what happens in that story is that she asks if she can go to the sweet shop to spend her pocket money, and her dad says no. And Bridget ignores him. She goes to the sweet shop and she buys these blue raspberry sweets, and she puts them in her mouth, and they turn her tongue blue, and she gets into trouble. Okay, so that's the gist of the film.
ではちょっと時間がなくなってきたので、まとめという意味も込めてですね、これから作品を、ご覧いただきたいんですが、この、作品も先ほどの、地元に根ざすまさにそれが、具現化された作品ですね。ブリジット、彼女が、主演をしてカメラも回しています。で、彼女の住む地域というのはですね、スコットランドでも、ある程度富裕層が住むエリアなので、カメラを家に持って行ってもいいよという、ことになったので、その結果彼女は大人の手を借りずに全部自分で撮ったんですね。で、かなりですねドキュメンタリータッチな、になっています。というのも彼女が撮ったフッテージを生かしているからですね。で、字幕がないのでストーリーをですねかいつまんでお伝えしておくと、ブリジットは、駄菓子屋さんに行ってね、お菓子屋さんで、買い物に行っていいっていうところ、パパがダメだって言うんですけど、彼女は無視して買いに行って、ブルーラズベリーという、お菓子をですね買うんですね。これは彼女の舌に青い色がつくんです。で、青い色がついちゃったことによってトラブルに発展するというお話です。
We weren't actually putting a little big brush with silly pictures on it. In my mouse, this crocodile, who had watched Ellie clean her teeth the night before while I had another quick soak in the bath. The crocodile stretched lazy. I'll just go and sit in that bath thing again, it said, shuffled around until it's pointing in the direction of Allie's bedroom door, and then started moving slowly. Allie got to the door first and leaned against it. She took a deep breath and said, "Look, I'm sorry, but I'm not meant to have crocodiles in the house. I only took you home because the traffic warden was going to tow you away. This isn't a good place for you to stay. If Mum told you she could bark."
You could just have a drink of water from the tap.
I'm trying to let it evaporate.
I'm a minimalist.
I did them both. We've got to. Max, what isn't it? Max, I think he got his nails painted right.
Okay, right, well, I've
And
finished.
so did Terry.
Bridget and Gracie are a bit far behind.
That's because I got so much. That's because I got so much. That's because I got so much.
Oh, Freya, you
Because
didn't
I got
finish.
to see nothing. Mum,
Yeah.
you know that thing that I said in the kitchen?
That you wanted to ask you something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I'm not going to ask you because I think you'll get out.
What do you?
Maybe
Oh,
I'll start.
okay.
Can I wish to the mountain
When?
for betting cards
When?
tomorrow?
No, I don't think it's a good idea, actually. You've been there a lot lately. And whose money are you going to use to go there?
Mine.
And don't you think you spend too much pocket money on sweets?
Oh, no, I haven't.
No, I don't think it's a good idea. Well, Bethan is coming to play with you in order to play, not to go off eating sweets. And I don't think it's right because Bethan's parents might not like the idea that she's coming to spend time with you and going and eating sweets.
Well, I'm doing it anyway.
Are you? Dean, that's very rude.
Next, can I have a 50p bag of raspberry bonbons? of your business, actually. What are you doing? Nothing. Let me see your map. You've got a blue tongue. I know you've been eating raspberry bonbons, haven't you? No, I haven't. You have. Give them back. No, I haven't. Mummy.
Bridget, have you been munching on bonbons again?
No, it is not right, actually.
Is this true? Are you sure?
Yes.
Let's see your tongue. Uh-oh, blue tongue says it all, I'm afraid. Now, Gracie was wrong to throw your bonbon in the rock pool. But really, these bonbons are for treats, not for general munching, my treasure. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Do you?
Yes, I do.
Were you eating them before now as well? Were you eating them earlier up in your room?
Yes.
I thought so. I thought I saw a flash of blue tongue at lunchtime. That's especially bad just before lunch, Bridge. Come on, what is the dentist going to say when we go to see her next month? Bridget, do you understand how bad they are for your teeth?
Yes.
Do you understand that they ruin your appetite?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm afraid after today's little incident, we're going to have no treats for the next couple of weeks. And I'm afraid that means no treats when your friend comes to stay, when Beckham comes to stay. Do you understand, my love? Okay. Let's get home, shall we? Hi, Bridge. You're here. Okay. You look miserable. You're still upset about the sweeties. I'm sorry. But you really mustn't eat them on the beach, or before meal times, or have fights about them with your sisters. You promise you'll never do it again.
Yes.
What do you say?
Sorry. Mummy,
Yeah?
do you have Miss Rabbit?
Is Miss Rabbit at home?
Yes.
Which colour is Miss Rabbit?
Pink. Annie woke up the next morning and sleepily stuck her foot out of bed. It landed on something cold and bumpy. It was then that she remembered the crocodile. Oh no, she groaned and stuck her head onto the pillow. Good morning. Is it raining? The crocodile asked, hopefully. It stretched its tail and yawned. A strong smell of fish filled Annie's bedroom. Oh, pooh. Has it ever cleaned your teeth? Asked Annie. My teeth stay clean on their own.
Thank you very much. That's me out of time. But if anyone would like to ask me any questions about anything that I've said in the presentation, I'd be very happy to hear from you. Thank you very much for listening.
以上になります。私のプレゼンは以上ですが、何か見たものや私に何か、こういった聞きたいといった、質問などあれば喜んでお受けいたします。
And thank you, Yumi, for the translation. Very
My
good.
pleasure. Thank you very much. どうもありがとうございました。